All right, Shalom. This is your brother Nahalia from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rokah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word, in all truth and in sincerity. Yahweh is the name of the one they ignorantly call God. Yahweh Shai is the name of the one they ignorantly call Jesus. Bahashem is in the name. Rakah is spirit. Kodash is holy. Akyam is brothers. Akwath is sisters. Shalom means peace. And Yasher Allah is Israel in the ancient Paleo Hebrew. Real quick, this is Isaiah chapter 29 and verse 21. And it reads, I'll start at 20. It says, For the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off, that make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. All right, now I want to go into a lesson through the Spirit on this recent rise of anti-Semitism bills, all right, and how that links up, with where this world is headed, all right. Esau's going to come down with great wrath, but before he does anything, he usually puts down legislation to justify himself. Apostle Ramlab, he brought this out earlier today that, when Esau puts laws down, he also understands that there's a lot of overreach that happens when laws get placed. So when you look at these type of bills, and Lord willing we'll be able to read into it, you see that Esau is basically laying the groundwork to remove, this truth, and limit its access. The scriptures talk about a famine of the word. All right, so this is Isaiah 10 and 1 real quick. It says, Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. All right, and at this point, the needy only have, Lord willing, we be a part of that number. We only have the truth. The truth is really our only strong place, and Esau knows he's lost the information war. So what he's going to do is he's going to make an effort to silence and persecute. All right, and these are just the building blocks, if you will, that leads up to prophecy. So real quick, it says Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb signs proclamation condemning anti-Semitism while vetoing bill defining it. Now I just want to hit a point, all right, because I want to get to the details of what the bill is actually saying. All right, so let's get here. All right, I'll start here. All right, it says state senators, however, passed an amended version of the bill earlier this month that still included the IHRA's broad definition of anti-Semitism, but deleted the group's name and examples that include explicit references to Israel. Opponents include the Indiana Muslim Advocacy Network and Jewish Voice for Peace Indiana had argued that such direct references would stifle criticism of Israel in academic settings and activism on campuses in support of Palestinians facing a worsening humanitarian crisis and widespread starvation. All right, so when you look at these bills, they basically discourage criticism of the small hats. All right, so read between the lines who the small hats are. But this type of this type of bill, these type of laws are set up to discourage criticism. All right, basically through the threat of punishment, you know, and this is going to discourage people from actually speaking truth, you know, and that's why we understand all of this goes back to prophecy. But Esau has lost the information war, so now he has to take it up a notch. And we know, according to prophecy, that this is what would happen. All right, real quick. Yep. So let's go here. So it's congress.gov. All right, and it says strongly condemning and denouncing the drastic rise of anti-Semitism in the United States and around the world. All right, so let's see. All right, so let's go to text. All right, so when you jump down and you read through this, all right, it says, whereas acts of hate, intimidation, discrimination, and violence based on ethnicity or religion have no place in our country nor in the global community. Now, they give this blanket term, right, to act like they're being fair. All right, it says, whereas the IHRA, you can read it, working definition of anti Semitism is widely accepted and serves as a critical tool to help individuals comprehend and identify the various manifestations of anti Semitism. All right, and then they begin to give examples of things that have happened to the small hats. All right. And it says this: the House Representative strongly condemns and denounces all instances of anti Semitism occurring in the United States and globally, reaffirms and reiterates its strong support for the Jewish community at home and abroad, calls on elected officials and world leaders to condemn and fight all forms of domestic and global anti Semitism, clearly and firmly states that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism and rejects all forms of terror, hate, discrimination, and harassment of members of the Jewish community. All right, and this is the beginning stages. These are building blocks that get us to prophecy. All right. Matter of fact, let's go here. It really comes as no surprise. All right, this is Amos chapter 9, and I want to jump up to verse 11. All right, it says, in that day I will raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. And I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old. See, what's happening right now is the tabernacle of David is being built, the breaches are being closed, and it's happening before Esau's eyes, and he can't stop it. He's tried to demonize this truth. He's tried to make this truth seem far-fetched, but all of his efforts have backfired, and he's lost the information war. And we know exactly what he does when he loses the information war. All right, this is Revelation 12 and 12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. All right, so he's setting up legislation to justify his actions. All right, in condemning the truth, because it ain't even about right or wrong at this point. It's about the money that they've taken from these small hats, because most of these politicians, they take money from these small hats through committees like this one. All right, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, or AIPAC, is a lobbying group that advocates pro-Israel policies to the legislative and executive branches of the United States. Now, when you look up lobbying, all right, it says lobbying in the United States describes paid activity in which special interest groups hire well-connected professional advocates, often lawyers, to argue for specific legislation in decision-making bodies such as the U.S. Congress. And that's a fancy way to say they're receiving bribes. All right, we can cut to the chase. All right, this is Ecclesiastes 7 and 7. It says, surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart. Now, when you go into that word gift, all right, it's matana, matana, all right? And when you go down to Strong's definition, it says a present, specifically in a good sense, a sacrificial offering; in a bad sense, a bribe, all right? And that's exactly what that is, all right? It's set up in Esau's system to basically allow people to receive bribes, all right? It says, bribe dictionary says persuade someone to act in one's favor, typically illegally or dishonestly, by a gift of money or other inducement or inducements. Salakia. All right, so when you see stuff like this come out, it's not because they have a soft heart for the small hats. It's because they're being paid to do this. They have the small hats have very powerful companies or organizations, I should say, that and they have a lot of money. And you got to keep in mind, all of these politicians have to run a campaign to be reelected to keep their job. So it's in their best interest to gather as much money as they can for their campaigns. So at that point, it's no longer about justice. It's no longer about right and wrong. It's about doing the bidding of whoever's paying you. But we know that all of these things go back to prophecy. All right. As a matter of fact, all right. So this is Amos chapter 8 and verse 11. And it reads, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. All right. And when you go into the NLT, it says, The time is surely coming, says the sovereign Lord, when I will send a famine on the land, not a famine of bread or water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. All right. And these things, these little legislative moves that they're making are attempts, I wouldn't even say attempts. These are just the building blocks of how they are going to come down with great wrath, because they set up the laws and then it's up to the police and the states to enforce these laws. And we already know the reputation of, the police force, generally speaking, especially when it comes to Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. So this is more than enough excuse and reason, to come down with great wrath on those speaking the word. All right. And this is just a few, I believe Georgia did the same thing. So it's going state by state, but it's traveling fast. Florida did it as well, I believe. All right. So when you look at this one, it says Georgia Governor Brian Kemp on Wednesday signed a law defining anti-Semitism in state law, proclaiming support for Jewish residents despite concerns that measure would hamper people opposing the actions of Israel. And that's exactly what it's meant to do. It's meant to discourage people from criticizing what those small hats are doing to those Ishmaelites over there in that land. All right, and this is why the scriptures talk about making a man an offender for a word. All right, this is unjust. All right. Matter of fact, let me get this. All right, this is Exodus 23 and 8, and it says, And thou shalt take no gift, for the gift blindeth the wise and perverteth the words of the righteous. All right, and again, when you go into that word gift, all right, it says, this is shachad, all right, shachad, and it says present, and then it says again bribe. All right, so that's unlawful to take bribes, all right, to twist judgment. All right, but ultimately Esau's doing this because he's losing the information war. He knows that he has but a short time, and he's trying to, with all his might, fight against it. All right, this is Job chapter 14 and 5. It reads, Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee, thou hast appointed his bounds, that he cannot pass. All right, but he's using these type of legislative moves to basically justify himself, because eventually they're going to come after brothers preaching this word. It may start off with a bill here in this state, a bill there, but eventually once it's in the books and people look the other way, they're able to start to do overreach. All right, now I want to get a point that was made on this. All right, it says Kenneth Stern, the author of IHRA's definition, told the Associated Press that using such language in law is problematic because an increasing number of small hats have adopted an anti-Zionist position in opposition to Israeli actions. All right, it says lawmakers in more than half a dozen additional U.S. states are pushing laws to define anti-Semitism. So these are the building blocks. This is why no matter whether it's Democrat or Republican, they're both in agreement when it comes to defending the small hats in the state of Israel. Because ultimately, those are just Edomites, with yarmulkes on. All right, they're all a part of the same nation. They're just partitioned. All right, when you actually go into the scriptures, all right, the small hats, the Israelis, all right, come from the tribe of Amalek. All right, let's go here. This is Numbers 20, 24. All right, Numbers 24 and 20. And it reads, and when he looked on Amalek, he took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his latter end shall be that he perish forever. Because that's the chief house of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. The chief house is the small hats. This is why, with America being the biggest and strongest government, on the planet, they still do the bidding of a very small state of Israel. They still support financially, among other things, the small state of Israel, because ultimately that is the tribe of Amalek. All right, and they're the first of the Edomites. They're the chief house, and this is why you see this internal conflict between the small hats and the average so-called white people. It's not because they're a different nation of people, but it's because they have the bigger share of this empire, of this kingdom, if you will. All right, and this is why you see stuff like this come out, because they're basically defending their brethren. But the Lord is using this. Yeah, so ultimately Esau's going to use this to come down with great wrath. All right. It says opponents of the Georgia law warned it would be used to censor free speech rights, with criticism of Israel equated to hatred of Jewish people. And that's exactly what it's meant to do. And these people aren't stupid. Like they know exactly what they're doing. But they're putting these things in the laws to justify their moves. All right, it says a coalition of organizations, including Jewish Voice for Peace and CAIR, issued a joint statement saying that the Georgia bill falsely equates critiques of Israel and Zionism with discrimination against Jewish people. All right, but again, this is all payola. All right, they're paid to push this narrative by the AIPAC. All right, which is a group of small hats, a rich group of small hats. All right, now last but not least, Florida did the same thing. All right. All right, so they push. All right, it says Florida bill. Now let's go here. All right, it says Governor Ron DeSantis signs legislation in Israel further combating anti-Semitism. So you're starting to see this growing trend of legislation being put down. All right, where if you harm a small hat, and we don't advocate for physically harming small hats or anything of that nature, but these things are being placed in the books to discourage people from even talking about them, which shows you that it's going to infringe on free speech, which shows you that all of these are just building blocks that are leading to the famine of the word. All right, and that's why if you have this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, you have to cherish it. And for those who are still on the fence, you don't have long, man. All right, that's the reality. All right. Amos 8 and 11 again reads, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord, and shall not find it. All right. Not only is Esau going to come down with great wrath, but as a result, the truth being as accessible as it is right now, it's not going to be that way forever, you know. So Lord willing, this was edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasha Allah, and a sincere salutation to all Yuakim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Shalom.